טוב ומנעים, שבת כאן יחד, הנה מה 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 טוב ומנעים, שבת כאן יחד.
Chag Sameach.
חג שמח.
Today is a joyous day. Shavuot is one of the festival days given to us in the Torah. It is both a harvest festival where we give thanks to God by offering our first fruits, the best and most choice offerings of our harvest, as well as a day of commemoration of when the Jewish people stood at Sinai receiving the Torah. The rabbis teach us that when God was ready at Mount Sinai to give the Israelites the Torah, God first asked for a guarantor, or some kind of collateral, before giving away such a valuable possession. At first, the Israelites offered their ancestors, saying that for the sake of our ancestors, we merit the Torah. And God said, no, that is not a sufficient guarantee. Then the Israelites offered their prophets and their sages, saying it's because of their merit that we should receive the Torah. But each time God said, no, that is also not good enough to ensure that you will embrace the Torah. Finally, the Israelites offered their children as their guarantee, saying that for the sake of our children, we promise to treasure and live by the Torah. And it was only then that God accepted what they offered and said, at last, these truly are an excellent guarantee, and it is only for the sake of your children that I will give the Torah to you. And so it is on this day, on Shavuot, that we celebrate the giving of the Torah, and we remind ourselves that it is only because of our children that we were given something so precious. It is for both of these reasons that it is traditional in Reformed congregations to add to the joy of Shavuot by celebrating our confirmation students on this day. It's a day when we symbolically stand at Mount Sinai, reaffirming our covenant with God and with the Jewish people, and when we offer to the Holy One the most sacred of our gifts, what we are offering is not the harvest of our fields, but the harvest of our hearts, those who study Torah. Tonight, we will hear from our confirmands about what being Jewish means to each of them. Each one will give us a glimpse into their Jewish identity, and through their words, we will be better able to understand why it was for the sake of our children that we merit the Torah. It is because Judaism is an ever-evolving faith. It's a religion that even while we honor our past, we must also remind ourselves to always be looking forward as well, because it is our youth who will continue to lead us into the future, a future that will be, God willing, much better than the world that we currently live in. And so on this night, we recognize as well that each of these students have been blessed with good teachers, their parents, each of whom, by their own example, have taught their children about the importance of study, of community, of faith, and of service to others. And so it is my pleasure to invite up all of the parents of our confirmands to the bima to do us the honor of lighting the festival candles. Amen.
Amen.
I think is there a second reading on there? Is there a Shehechianu on there or something?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Amen. Good Yantif.
It's now my pleasure to invite two of our confirmation students to share their personal statements. First, we'll hear from Zachary Stern, and then from Jet Steele.
Hi, my name is Zach, and the story that I'm going to tell you right now is a story of my first confirmation experience. I came into the courtyard and saw a few familiar faces, but I didn't really know them, you know? And then Rabbi surprised us all with donuts. Who doesn't love donuts? It was at this moment that I knew that this was not going to be like Sunday school or Hebrew school on Tuesdays. I didn't say much that day, except what my name was, where I went to high school, and why we are here, which I responded, my parents forced me. I can't tell you what else we talked about that very first day, but I said to myself, this isn't that bad. After that, the topic started out as kind of boring, mostly because it didn't pay that much attention. But as the year moved along, and I started to get more comfortable being there, the topics got more and more interesting. Now, I'm writing this in the closing stages of confirmation, with it being less than 24 hours till this is due. I thought to myself, this wasn't all that bad. My expectations were low, and they exceeded it, and then some. But one thing I wish I could have done is talk sooner, because my classmates and I can attest to this. When I start talking, everything instantly gets better. This confirmation class is so much fun. It's like one giant party, to say the least. We always find a way to have fun. So wrapping it up, I just wanted to say thank you to the parents who have driven us here almost every Tuesday to have boatloads of fun and help us plan events. Thank you to the kids for helping me and other students have fun. on Tuesdays and on days we volunteered at bar mitzvahs and such. And thank you, Rabbi Alfie and Rabbi Galit, and many more who have made these lessons fun and interactive. And last but not least, thank you everyone else who has made this experience possible.
I'd like to say thank you to all the members of the congregation that have come in to help us learn new things about being Jewish, whether it be through celebrating holidays, making art, photography, or just talking. I know that my classmates and I always enjoyed being able to partake in these electives, which were made possible by Rabbi and everyone who volunteered with the confirmation class. Religious school has always been an integral part in giving me a great sense of community, which in turn has shaped my Jewish identity that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Religious school has made me realize that Jewish identity can be shaped by learning Jewish history, worldwide culture, and customs and teachings. To me, being Jewish is about becoming a better person and acknowledging the community that helps us grow as a people. It wasn't always easy getting me up at 8 a.m. on Sunday for Hebrew school, but once I got there, I was glad to be there. So in turn, I've realized that being Jewish isn't just a culture, it's a community. Thank you for this opportunity to speak about what being Jewish means to me.
We continue with our service as we rise for the Baruch on page 394. We continue on page 396.
Lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 lai. Ai lai 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 lai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bikaro ma'ariv arabim ma'ariv arabim v'chokma poteach sharim u'bina meshanei tim u'machalifet hazmanim u'mesader et ha'kochavim b'mishmeroteihem Barakia kirtzono, ya la 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 בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו, ובהם נגן יומם ולילה. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. 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 ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. We continue on page 402. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמן.
It's now my pleasure to invite up Samantha Meredith, Aaliyah Passavoy, and E. Robinson to share their personal statements.
As much as I joke around that Oracle Park, home to my favorite baseball team, the San Francisco Giants, is my home away from home, throughout the past couple of years, I have discovered a new home, my Jewish community. There's Confirmation, but also Busy and Nifty, our local youth groups, where I have met some of the most amazing people and made the most unforgettable memories. But then there's Camp Newman, my real home away from home. Camp has taught me so much of who I am as a person, but also who I am as a Jew. I don't think I really understood what it meant to be part of a supportive community and feel a sense of belonging until I spent time at Camp Newman. Have I been part of numerous sports teams? Yes. Do they always make the best community? Absolutely not. You get to camp and immediately feel a sense of belonging as you walk through the tunnel of CITs yelling Haveni Shalom. Through camp, I have learned that I take complete pride in calling myself a Jew. I love every minute of those 2 weeks that I get to spend with Jews and only Jews. The lifelong friends you meet at camp are like none other, whether it be growing closer to your already best friend who just happens to be your cousin, or meeting new ones who support you in every moment and will always be there for you when you need them, no matter how far away they may be. This is the piece of life I never knew I needed. When my parents gave me the choice to partake in confirmation this year, there was no second thought. I knew this was the perfect opportunity to take those moments I thrive off of during those 2 weeks at camp and get to experience them weekly at confirmation. I cannot wait to continue exploring my Jewish identity, not only in Israel this summer, but also as the next busy president.
When Rabbi first told us about writing a personal statement, saying we could write about anything, I groaned. That gave me a million things to write about, but also, at the same time, nothing at all. I'd be lying if I said that the reason I came to confirmation was entirely to learn, but it was also to see my friends regularly. The pandemic was slowing down when we had the choice to sign up, and I was excited at the fact that I'd get to see what is now my Jew crew every week. There was also a comfort in this because of the lack of Judaism that had been in my life during the pandemic. I was ready to be back at synagogue because of the constant community where you can always be your true self, where you don't have to think about being different. When you're here or anywhere else with Jews, you have an immediate connection. And I hate to be like others and bring up camp, but that's also what makes camp so special. It's instantly a comfortable place, whether it's your first summer or your sixth. Whether you came with friends or without, you already have a connection. Then, by the time you leave camp, there become lifelong friends, even best friends that you talk to on a daily basis from 105 miles away. Shout out to Sam for being there, for being my other half, my rock, and matching my energy our entire lives. I love you so much, and this is just a redemption from your bat mitzvah when my mother definitely told me to write something, but I knew what I wanted to say, and then totally botched it. Over the course of this year, we have gotten the opportunity to reconnect with our class and expand our Jewish learning through new eyes. We have gotten to choose the content and go with the flow when things in the real world happen that need discussing. I learned to step out of my comfort zone sometimes in class to answer questions that I never would have taken the time to think about. The best thing is that we all have slightly different views, opening our eyes to a whole new way of thinking. Recently, I attended a Nifty event where we talked about God. I had the chance to really think about what God is to me. For me, God is something with no gender, no identity, and honestly, something I'm still not sure I believe in. I love that in Judaism, God is a personal choice that is never pushed on you. Judaism isn't solely based on a belief in God. It's based on history, values, and community. This year, I realized that I've found my people here. And so, if you ask me why I love coming to confirmation and being Jewish, I would say community.
From the moment I was born, I was immersed in the Jewish community, from holidays to synagogue to shalom school, as the kid who always wanted to wear a kippah. But to me, being Jewish became more about the community and the friendships that I've made than the more religious aspects, such as services. When I was younger, I felt more connected to the religious aspects of Judaism, and I was more observant than I am now. While my relationship with Judaism may have changed, I still feel connected to the community. Since joining religious school in 4th grade, I have made numerous friends who have accepted me as me. I wasn't the biggest fan of Sunday or Hebrew school, as I went to shalom school at the time and already knew most of the prayers in Judaica that was being taught, and the rest I found boring. I could tell y'all that the friendships that I made were the reason why I looked forward to attending it. But let's be real, I never looked forward to attending it. However, my friends were what made attending religious school bearable, and dare I say fun. In fact, I'm still close friends with them, and I'm even standing with them here tonight. They've all been such great and supportive friends, especially after I came out. Since coming out, I've been attending Keshet Hangouts and other events over Zoom. Keshet is a safe place for queer Jews to be with other queer Jews. I've made some friends through Keshet, and I even ran into one of them at Camp Newman, which was really cool. Overall, I'm grateful that y'all are my friends and make me feel part of our Jewish community.
We continue together on the top of page 405. Please join me. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird which cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field covered with snow. Hold fast to dreams. I'd like to invite the whole confirmation class up to lead us in the Micha Mocha on page 406.
חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
It's my pleasure to invite up Bunny Heather, Zephan Mastronardi, and Benjamin Rubin to share their personal statements.
My mother hasn't always been really into Judaism. I'm sorry, I don't feel well.
Are you okay, sweetie? Do you want me to stand next to you?
Can I?
Do you want to sit and go next?
I don't know. I don't know. Can I go next? Yeah.
Yeah. Come sit here, sweetheart. And I'm going to get you one. Just sit down. Who was next? Zephan?
Why am I Jewish? What does it mean to be Jewish? These are questions that I have asked myself many times. I'm Jewish because it gives me a community that I don't have to change anything about myself to fit into. Being Jewish means being part of the Jewish community, whether that's through going to services, giving tzedakah, waiting for USPS to finally deliver my space laser, attending events, or even just saying hi every once in a while. Thank you.
My Jewish identity means being part of an evolving community with a large legacy. It connects me to my family in the present when we get together to celebrate holidays and bar and bat mitzvahs. It can also connect me to my ancestors, and a connection to past communities is also important to me in Judaism. For example, on Passover, some don't eat leavened bread because we didn't have enough time to wait for it to rise. Some do this to experience what the Jewish people felt fleeing from Egypt. In Judaism, there's a continual value of remembering history, our history, and using it to inform the future. Interpretation and discussion is also an important part of Judaism. For example, the Talmud is a collection of rabbis discussing the Torah and adding their own interpretations to the mix. This aspect of Judaism appeals to me because it highlights questioning and acceptance of other points of view. The Jewish values I admire include taking breaks to make some time special, tikkun olam, the importance of discussion and debate, the value of laughing during hard times, and to respect your family, either found or born, and many more. This confirmation class also taught me to look through the world through a Jewish lens and to appreciate the evolution and the history of Judaism.
Yasher koach. Well, actually, wait a minute. I'd like to invite the entire confirmation class back up onto the bima as we continue with Hashkivenu, which can be found on the back page. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'ha'amidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us daily wrong from right. Amen. 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 So I should have told you to bring up your sidurim, your prayer books, because now you need your prayer books to help lead us in the tefillah. So if you'd like to go get them and bring them back up.
What page are we on?
But if you had had your prayer books, you would not have had to have that great moment together. So please join us in the tefillah, beginning on page 468. Please rise. Yes. Adonai, Sabatai Ta'um, Li'ani Ze'ilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei
we continue silently, standing or sitting as is your custom, with the prayers of the prayer book or the prayers of your heart. And to please note that because it is a festival of Shavuot, there are inserts special for the holiday on page 478 and 480. Oh, say shalom, in Ramah. Oh, say shalom, in Ramah. Ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh shalom. Oh, ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh shalom. Oh, ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh shalom. Aleichem. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say shalom, in Ramah. Oh, say shalom, in Ramah. Ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh shalom. Oh, ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh shalom. Oh, ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh, ya'atzeh shalom. Aleichem. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down.
We continue learning and hearing from our students, and it's my pleasure to invite up Bunny Heather, Hodaya Cohen Kedem, Harper Barankin, and Clara Goldberg.
My mother hasn't always been really into Judaism. Her interest comes and goes, and I will probably be the same throughout my life. I think the story of my Jewish identity is only just beginning. Right now, my feelings towards Judaism are that being Jewish seems more fun than not being Jewish. If I wasn't Jewish, I'd miss out on lots of fun stuff. If I was Christian, I wouldn't be able to do any fun Christian activities because I haven't worshipped a deity since I was like 5. But I can be Jewish and not believe in a God. Judaism isn't just a religion, it's also an ethnicity and a family identity. When I got home from Jewish art camp, my mom asked what camp songs we had learned. I started singing Eli, Eli, and she sang along with me. It was one of her favorite songs too. It was something we could share. I also share many fond memories of holidays with my family and other Jews, like playing dreidel on Hanukkah and eating matzo ball soup on Passover. The Purim Spiel at this synagogue was the last event I went to outside my house before the plague, and it was a very fun experience. It was really awesome to be back at the synagogue for Purim this year now that the plague is decreased. I probably won't have any human kids, but I will give my cats Hanukkah presents because I want them to have Hanukkah joy like I did growing up. Technically, cats can't be Jewish, but they still deserve Hanukkah joy. I wish I could use my Jewish space laser as a laser pointer for my cat Whiskers, but unfortunately I'm still waiting to get one. What being Jewish means to me is really wishing people would stop believing anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, especially people in important government positions, and also really wishing I had a space laser.
So, Chag Sameach, everyone. My name is Odaya, and I'm Rabbi Gali's daughter. So, why is this information relevant to you right now? So, you won't be surprised that I start my statement with a Midrash from the Talmud, Tractate Shabbat 31a. It goes like this. There was another incident involving one non-Jew who came before Shammai and said to Shammai, "Convert me on one condition, that you teach me the entire Torah while I'm standing on one foot." Shammai pushed him away. The same person came before Hillel. Hillel converted him and said, "That which is hateful to you, don't do to another." That is the entire Torah, and the rest is interpretation. Go study. So for the next part, I need you all to stand up. If it doesn't work, it was my brother's idea, so blame him. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you my Torah. All the things that I believe make the world a better place while you're all standing on one foot. So we can start. I promise I'll be short. God is one and only. All humans were created in the image of God. Shabbat, Torah study, community, tzedakah, respecting elders, faith, tikkun olam, prayer, and good food. Okay, you can sit now. I can talk about any item on that list for hours, but today I'm going to focus on one, community. Some of you may not know that I was born and raised in Israel, and 10 months ago I moved here with my family. One of the things that I've missed the most about home is my wonderful congregation, Kodesh V'Chol, that my parents founded in Holon, Israel. That community really changed my life growing up, and I can see now how it affected me in such good ways. Community is one of the most important life features that Judaism gifted us. Coming to CBI halfway around the world, 8,800 miles away from home to be exact, something beautiful happened to me. This community made me feel at home. How is this even possible, to feel so much at home so far away from home? I think the answer is here in CBI, this sanctuary. Everybody is welcome. Any person can practice Judaism in different ways according to what they feel comfortable with and what they believe in. I think this is what it means to feel at home. At home, I can be who I am. Being a Reformed Jew in Israel is not a walk in the park. Personally, I feel a constant conflict between my two big titles, Jewish and liberal. I often thought that it's impossible to be both. You can only apply one of them in each situation. When I was among liberal Israelis, I didn't feel comfortable to share that I go to a school that teaches advanced Talmud and prayer and that I fast on Yom Kippur. Many Israelis have severe PTSD from Judaism. They feel like it's have been forced on them. And they are not entirely wrong. In Israel, the default Judaism is Orthodoxy. Most Orthodox communities do not encourage personal choice, celebrate diversity, fight racism, or care about climate change. Liberal Israelis can't find their place in that kind of Judaism, so they choose liberalism. On the other hand, in an environment that emphasizes traditional Judaism, such as modern Orthodox, I minimize my liberal identity. In some of my circles, I don't bring up that I'm a Reform, or that my mom is a rabbi, or that I had a bar mitzvah and chant from the Torah. I felt different, and I was worried not to be accepted. But the truth is that I didn't know who I wanted to be. I didn't know if I was supported the woman of the wall and if I wanted to wear a kippah. You see, those are the first things that come to mind to a common Israeli when they hear you are a Reformed Jew. It's like here in the US with the questions about the space lasers. I'm sorry. Okay? While trying to balance those two titles, my family came here. And let me tell you something. You know how to do liberal Judaism without putting aside any part of this sentence. You are very liberal, but also very Jewish. I've never felt here, even for a second, that I needed to compromise or choose between my Jewishness or my liberalism. Going back to the Midrash, I think this is the secret of liberal Judaism. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. It even says this on your building. When I imagine the future of Judaism in Israel, I wish for what I have experienced here. Everyone is welcome. You love every person exactly how they are, people that chose Judaism and were born into it. You love God. You love helping people. You love being Jewish. And I'm glad that I got to learn from you how to be a liberal Jew all the way with no shame. It's quite ironic that I, an Israeli, was born in a Jewish state and grew up there, telling you guys, you figured it out. So thank you for that. Thank you.
These last few years have been difficult for me, and before you all start rolling your eyes, no, it was not because of COVID. It is because, in about 7th grade, I decided to teach myself more about this halachic requirement that a person's mother be Jewish in order for that person to be considered a Jew. My mother is not Jewish, which means that, according to strict Jewish law, neither am I. Ironically, it was from her coworker that I first heard the phrase, Jewish enough for Hitler, but not for other Jews. That quote summed up my identity for quite a while. I was Jewish enough for my ethnic studies teacher to scream L'chaim when I referenced the Star of David drawn on my About Me poster. Jewish enough for an old English teacher to ask me to spell shalom in Hebrew. I was Jewish enough for my literature teacher this year to ask me for pronunciations of Hebrew and Yiddish words after seeing my necklace. And Jewish enough for that same teacher to proclaim, and all the aunties want you to find a nice Jewish husband, don't they? Jewish enough for Israeli citizenship, but not Jewish enough to get married in Israel. I was befuddled and confused. A lost sleep because of who my mother was, who my mother is, seemed to invalidate something that I'd always held to be true, that I was Jewish, that I am Jewish. I did not know how to deal with this identity crisis of sorts, and my initial response was to move away from Judaism. I thought, fine, if Judaism doesn't want me, then I don't want it. But that felt wrong, and it was difficult from a logistical perspective as well. Though my mother is not converted, my family is a Jewish one, and nothing I could do kept that from being true. I would get annoyed at the sight of Shabbat candles, or when one of my friends sent out a B'nai Mitzvah invitation. All of a sudden, when people asked if I was Jewish, I didn't know how to respond. Ultimately, I gave up trying to abandon Judaism. It was too hard, and I felt stuck. Unfortunately, I overcorrected a bit. I tried to make myself as Jewish as possible so that no one would question my identity, and this quickly became a slippery slope. I started to resent my mother, and I started to resent myself. I found that Jewish traditions started to mean less and less to me because I was doing them to prove something to other people. Confirmation this year helped me build my Jewish confidence a lot, but funnily enough, it was a nifty event just a few weeks ago that really helped me to fall out of this funk. I went mostly because I figured why not, and it wouldn't be inaccurate to say some peer pressuring was involved. But I had a lot of fun, and I spent my entire weekend with teenagers who were Jewish and proud, and they never questioned for a second that I was as well. Knowing that there were people outside of my community, the B'nai Israel community, who would also accept me as a Jew was somehow revolutionary in my mind. I mean, I've read enough articles on this issue to know that patrilineal Jews are accepted in liberal Jewish communities, but actually being able to experience that was something else entirely. It showed me that there is a Jewish community for me outside of B'nai Israel, that Judaism does want me, or at least the kind of Judaism that I want to be a part of does. And I don't have to do anything special to prove that I belong. That nifty event gave me real confidence in my Judaism for the first time, and I hope to carry that confidence with me for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Imagine you're transported back in time, 65 years ago, and you're standing at the border of Soviet-controlled Hungary. It's the middle of December during a freezing night in the year 1956. You can feel the chilling breeze against your skin, and the few layers of thin clothes you were able to take with you do almost nothing to protect against the cold. Your pockets are empty, with not a single coin left to spare. The last of the little money you had was paid to a smuggler you'd met in Budapest, who agreed to help you get across the border to Austria. Pieces of straw are still stuck to your clothes and hair from the bumpy ride under bales of hay in this man's cart, as he rode for miles down a dark dirt road. When he stopped, he gave you strict directions, nothing more than a few curt sentences, and then he disappeared back into the night. So now here you are, alone in almost complete pitch black, with no other light than the cloudy moon above you. All you can see before you is miles of farmland, with a tall, barbed wire fence stretching the perimeter. The sharp prongs stick out along every foot. As you tuck in the loose ends of your clothes, you take a deep breath and begin to crawl under the wire. Dirt and mud soak through to your skin. The stinging pain of the metal shoots through your limbs as it cuts you all across your body. When you reach the other side, you haul yourself back onto your feet and scrape the mud off your arms and legs. You begin to start walking towards the dim lights of the distant village ahead. You have no money, no food, and no one by your side. All you have is your hope, the desire for an escape from your home country you once loved. When you reach the small town, you meet locals, who, when seeing your disheveled state, guide you to a nearby refugee camp, where you stay for a few weeks. So while this story is fictional for all of you, this was reality for my grandmother, a university student, a bright and beautiful young woman whose life was torn apart at only 22 by the takeover of her home country by the USSR. All sense of normalcy and routine was shattered, and the nation was in ruin. The revolution that the Hungarian people attempted against the government regime had failed, and the Soviet army had violently crushed it in a matter of 11 days. Opposers of the government were beaten, tear-gassed, shot, or worse. So in a heartbreaking decision, my grandmother decided to escape Hungary in secret, not telling any of her family as she left, leaving her 4 sisters and parents behind. She did not see them again for over 10 years. With no one but herself and nothing more than her wits about her, she managed to get from the refugee camp in Austria to Italy. She stayed in Bologna for 3 years, where she was taken in by nuns in a Catholic convent. In return for room and board, she helped take care of the orphans at the convent. After getting her bachelor's degree, she traveled to the United States, going to Stanford University to get her PhD in linguistics. After her long stay in Bologna, naturally she had learned Italian, making it the 4th language she was fluent in, following Hungarian, German, and Russian. My grandmother had a deep curiosity with language that she passed down to me as well, an overlooked yet so complex aspect of the human experience. We tend to appreciate what a language creates, like literature, philosophy, theater, and music, yet not the genuine language itself. I'm referring to the actual arrangement of the letters, the specific syllables grouped together, and the infinite, absurd, descriptive adjectives we have at our disposal in our vocabulary. It sounds silly to be putting such an importance on the words themselves, rather than what they make when strung together. But with just a simple alphabet, 26 letters for English and a ridiculous 44 for Hungarian, our possibilities are quite literally endless. The different forms of communication varying from place to place with many commonalities, yet all unique in distinct ways. The history, the expressions, the tonality, the storytelling, language is a bridge between people, connecting those far and wide, allowing them to understand each other and to express themselves. It is both ancient and modern, new and old, transporting the thoughts and ideas of humans throughout centuries. It connects all of us. Jews live all over the globe, and despite different versions of prayers or song tunes, a lot of what we say is relatively the same, no matter where we are. The same words we say here in this space every service have been spoken for generations, thousands of miles apart. I've always been comforted by this fact, that if even just a small percentage of the population over the course of history knows what I'm saying, just those few people understanding makes me feel at home and seen. A quite shocking fact for some of the Jews who knew my grandmother later in life was that she was born and raised Catholic. She converted to Judaism when my mom was around 6 or 7, long after being married to my grandfather, who was a Jew, also from Hungary. Because of the horrors of World War II, he was understandably pretty unobservant. He didn't really believe in God or necessarily enjoy going to synagogue, but he loved Jewish food and the people all the same. Yet compared to both him and my other 2 Jewish-born grandparents, she was by far the most religiously devout, and also the typical Jewish grandma. She adored reading her prayer book, going to Friday night services, pinching the cheeks of her grandchildren, and always offering people seconds, thirds, fourths, and even fifths of her cooking. She was so immersed in Judaism and its culture, it was hard to picture her as anything else. But many years prior to me knowing her, in her tiny home village in Hungary, being Catholic had saved her and her family from the Nazis, sparing them from a much worse fate. Yet many times I heard her repeat the story from her childhood that stuck with her for decades. One day, the Jewish kids she knew and played with daily were taken by the Arrow Cross, the Hungarian Nazis. They were packed into horse-drawn carriages and carted away, never to be seen again. This memory was cemented into my grandmother's mind, giving her a deep curiosity and connection to Judaism, long before she converted, that stuck with her for years. So when she traveled back to Hungary to visit my grandfather's Jewish relatives, she listened to their history and their traditions, and heard stories that were similar to hers of escaping. She remembered the kids from her village and how it felt seeing them taken away. She formally converted not long after the visit. The religion and its practices brought her a sort of solace. The flowery wording of the prayers, the tunes of the songs, all of it gave her a sense of healing to a past younger self, both the little girl in the village and the young woman with an adoration for linguistics. In her lifetime, my grandmother became fluent in 9 different languages. She made it her career and her passion, teaching linguistics at the Naval Postgraduate School. Her ever-longing quest for knowledge never stopped, and it was a trait she instilled in both her children and grandchildren. I adore learning, similar to her. There is so much information in the world to know, and so many interesting conversations to be held over countless topics. So when my parents told me about joining confirmation, I was actually fairly excited. I had heard from my brother about his experiences in confirmation, with all the varying discussion topics that purposely made you think. They made you stop and take a minute to reflect on the subject. Over the course of my time in confirmation, I've been fortunate enough to have participated in these discussions. From my peers, I've heard contrasting opinions, agreement, disagreement, confusion, everything under the sun. But each conversation, I've learned something, and that I will forever be grateful for. If there's a single thing confirmation overall has made me realize, is that the old and the new are more alike than we think. We related stories from the Torah to modern-day issues, talked about outdated beliefs, and on our very first day, looked at the wall of pictures of confirmation classes from so long ago. Dating back more than a century, we saw in black and white print them standing proudly in their robes. And here we are, standing in our robes. Tradition and change go hand in hand. With every ancient ritual, there's also a prayer, commanding us to be the change we seek in the world, or to stand up for those who can't. In times of difficult change, like escaping a war-torn country or mourning a death, the traditions we hold on to can bring comfort and peace. On the contrary, when facing hard-set, unmoving traditions, change is the one that brings comfort. Judaism teaches that we should always be questioning, blazing a path for progress, and building off the works of those who came before us. It inspires us to keep learning and moving forward, just like the Jewish people have for centuries, and just like my grandmother did. And although we were decades apart, some things do never change. I wear lots of jewelry, just like her. I paint, just like her. I love languages, just like her. I will forever continue to learn, just like her. And I am Jewish, just like her.
Yasher Koach, that was beautiful. We continue now with the Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for the reading of the Torah, and I'd like to invite the congregation to rise and our confirmands to join me at the ark.
Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha malachutecha malachut kol olamim umemshotecha bechol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch le'olam Adonai Yavarech et Amo Vashalom Avarachamim Heitiv Avitzoncha et Zion Tivnei Chamot Yerushalayim Ki v'kol levad batachnu Melech Elram v'nisa Adon Olamim Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Udevar Adonai No Yerushalayim Not yet Baruch Shenatan I got your Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo Gadol Adonai Tikunero Shemo Yachdav Now Lecha Adonai HaKeduna Ve'Hagevura Ve'Hatiferet Ve'Hanetzach Ve'Hahod Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz Lecha Adonai ha'mamlacha ve'hamiknasei lechol erod I can do that. And put that right in the center chair. I'm not sure where you're going to put it. Please be seated. You guys are going to do the Aliyah blessings from that microphone. Okay. You guys, you're going to do the blessings, the Aliyah blessings from up here. Yeah. Who's your first reader? Oh, none of you have Torah commentaries. I just realized. If I could have, yeah, thank you. If some of the adults could, and the three of you in the back, if you guys could help bring a bunch of Torah commentaries out. My apologies. There are two portions that we read in the Torah that when we read them, we're not reading them as historical pieces, but rather we're reading them as though we are living that moment again. The rabbis had a strange notion of time, that it didn't go in a linear fashion, but rather certain events in time are so momentous that they are constantly happening, and you just have to say the right words to be able to jump in and experience that moment. One of those moments in our tradition is standing at Sinai. And
hearing the 10 Commandments. And so as you hear the voices of different students chanting the 10 Commandments tonight, what you're hearing are not sophomores in high school. You're hearing the voice of God. So during the second, third, and fourth Aliyah in the booklet, we stand because if God is talking to you, the respectful thing is to stand. So as we hear the 10 Commandments chanted, the entire congregation will be invited to rise. Okay, Cantor, we are at, okay, I see Shirat Hayam. That's okay, we're really close. No. Shirat Hayam is right before. So tell me where they start. They start with the gown. Who's our first reader? Oh, you guys are here. Ben, do you remember where you start? Oh, who's this one? Okay. So, Ben? You're right here. Do you see it?
Somehow I think we had the same issue when we were at
You could
Sinai.
take off your mic.
We all had to gather around, figure out where we
And
were,
keep ours on.
get our spots.
So then that way we can hear you. So we are on page 523 in our Torah commentaries.
Do we have the blessing?
Yeah, it's up there.
Oh, that's right. I'm so confused.
No, you're fine. They're going to be up there for the blessing.
Oy. Ta'amdu Chana bat Natan V'Tivona Chaviva bat Yoshua U'Miriam bat Karen Rishon.
Come down, touch and then run up. Touch it. And then go back up there. Good. Logistically, it's tricky.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Vagam hakohanim hanigashim el Adonai yitkadashu penifrotz bahem Adonai. Vayomer Moshe el Adonai lo yuhal ha'am la'alot el har Sinai ki ata ha'edot banu le'amor hagbel et har ve'kidashto.
Vayomer Ela Adonai le'ared ve'ani tata ve'aron ima ve'hakohanim ve'an yachersu va'alot et Adonai penifrotz bam ve'ani Moshe vayered Moshe al ham vayomer alehem.
Yasher Koach. Yasher Koach to both of you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torat emet. V'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Yasher Koach.
so sorry, honey. Can you see up that high? Yeah. Okay. And where's that? Everybody's going to need to rise for this one. What? After those who are doing the Leah blessing bless the Torah, everyone is invited to rise.
Tamdu Hodaya Badadar Kohen Verav Galit Vechaviva Bat Reuven Levi Yudit Vekalanit Bat David Ve'ada Sheni.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen. Vaydaber Elohim et kol hadavarim ha'ele lemor. Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeiticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit avadim. Lo ti'alecha Elohim acherim al panai. Lo te'aselecha fesel v'kol temunach asher bashamayim mimal v'asher ba'aretz mitachat v'asher b'mayim mitachat la'aretz.
Lo tishtacha ve'lahem ve'lo ta'ovdem ki anochi Adonai Elohecha Elkanah poked avon avot al banim al shleshim ve'al ribeim lesonai ve'osei chesed la'alafim le'ohavai u'shomirei mitzvotai.
Yasher Koach. Both of you, Yasher Koach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher Koach. We're next to Eloise and Aliyah.
Ya'amdu Tzefania Matan ben Yoshua V'leora Rachel ben Naphtali Binyamin ve'Esther Devora V'Eliyahu mi Beit Pinchas v'Davida Yedida Shlishi.
Where's my last word on this? The last word? Yeah. You're right. But where do you start? No, here's last. You are finishing right. Yisharecha. Right before ki. Where's ki? No. There's another. Yeah. Do we need to know? We have two people right here. Okay, there it is. Thank you.
Baruch Adonai Amvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvrach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Lo tisa et shem Adonai Elohecha lashav ki lo yerekem Adonai et asher yisa et shemo lashav zahor Et Yom HaShabbat L'Kadesho Sheshet Yamim Ta'avod V'asita Chol Melachtecha V'yom HaShavi'i Shabbat L'Adonai Elohecha Lo Ta'aseh Chol Melacha Ata Uvinha Uvintecha Avdecha V'amatecha Bad Uvehemtecha Begerecha Asher Bisharecha.
Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'taretz et hayam v'kol et asher bam v'yahana v'bayom hashvi'i okay Barach Adonai et bayom hashabbat v'chadeshechu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'toheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Make sure you hear me. Ya'amdu Aliyah bat Michal David uMiriam Liba uBinyamin ben Roy v'Yafa Pesa v'Yoshua ben Baruch v'Ilana Sarah Revi'i.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
כבד את אביך ואת אמך, למען יאריכון ימיך על האדמה אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. לא תרצח, לא תנאף, לא תגנוב, לא תענה ברעך את שקר, לא תחמוד בית רעך, לא תחמוד אשת רעך, ועבדו ואמתו ושורו וחמורו וכל אשר לרעך.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nata b'toheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Next one's V'chol ha'am. Oh, I'm sorry, what's this? Yes, V'chol ha'am.
With the Torah in our midst and the presence of God closest to us, we offer our most precious of prayers, a prayer for healing, a healing of body and a healing for spirit for all who are in need. As the cantor chants the prayer, you'll notice that there will be a pause, and in that pause, we invite you to fill the space with the names of loved ones for whom you are praying. Mishaberach Avoteinu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov Umishaberach Imotenu Sarah Rivka Leah veRachel Hu Yavarech et HaCholim. pray for those whose names we said out loud. We pray for those whose names we hold in our hearts. We pray for all the parents who are not able to be with us tonight because they are trying to recover. We pray for all who are in need of healing of body or healing of spirit.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimel Rachamim Alehem Lachalimam Ulerapotam Ulachazikam Veishlach Lehem Meira Refuah Shleima Min Hashamayim Refuat HaNefesh U'Refuat HaGuf Hashata B'Gala U'Vizman Kariv Venomar Amen.
May the Holy One send all those who are ill a refuah shlema, complete healing of body and spirit, soon, speedily, and without delay. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen.
Yamdu Avi David ben Shoshana Zacharia Baruch ben Yitzchak v'Rachel v'Rivka Yakova bat Shendo Bela Hamishi.
Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
V'chol ha'am ro'im et ha'kolot ve'et halapidim ve'et kol ha'shofar ve'et ha'har ashen vayar ha'am ma'anu ve'amdu merachok v'meru Moshe daber ata imanu v'nishma'a ve'al yadaber imanu Elohim penamut Vayomer Moshe el ha'am al tira'u ki leva'avur nasot etchem ba ha'elohim uva'avur tiyeh yirato al pneichem levilti techeta'u ve'amod ha'am merachok Umoshe nigash al harafel asher sham ha'elohim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Ya'amod Hagbat Ha'amod Galila.
Please rise.
Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Yasher koach.
It's my pleasure now to invite up Joshua Schwartz, Ellery Kay, and Miranda Churchill. You're first.
Judaism for me has been woven into every fabric of my life. Coming in to being a teenager, then growing to be an adult, I've done a lot with Judaism. It's been a big part of my life. What I come up here today to tell you guys about is the building blocks that have built me to this point and how Judaism has affected every single one of them. First thing I want to talk about is family. To everyone in here, I hope family is the most important thing to you. My parents have given me a life that I can never repay for, and my sister has been a joy to spend my years with. My sister has gone through the same journey I have, just at a younger stage. Seeing her go through all the things she's done, just same things I've done, but see her do it differently, it's been a really cool experience for me, and it's changed my perspective on Judaism. What I appreciate my parents doing is they both grew up in very different households in a Jewish aspect. My mother was raised in a religious household. My dad was not so much, if that. So what I appreciate that combination has done is it's given me my own ability to come into religion for myself, which I feel like is an opportunity that not even everyone in this room has been gifted. I got to learn Judaism for myself, determine how I felt about it and what I wanted to believe, which I feel very fortunate for. That's built a cool relationship with Judaism where it's okay to be me, but it's also a part of me. It's not something that rules my life, but it's something that impacts it. And for that, I'm very thankful. Second thing I want to talk about is friends. I've lived in 4 states over my life. That means I've met a lot of people, had a lot of different inner circles. The main common thing about all of them, and what I think for mainly everyone here, is that most of those friends aren't Jewish. Which means when you meet someone and they eventually find out that you are Jewish, you have to go through a long conversation about who you are, what you do, and why you do it, and why you believe it. The special thing about Judaism is a religion of people that have gone through a lot of hardship. A lot of hardship. A whole lot of hardship. But what that's done is that's made us very accepting of other people and very welcoming to others too. So going through a lot of inner circles, meeting a lot of new people, conversations become easier every single time. But having that conversation, opening up to people, and then getting to meet them has changed my perspective on Judaism because I've seen a lot of other cultures. A lot of people do a lot of things a lot of different ways, and getting to see all of that has impacted how I not really view my religion myself, but how I participate, how I view how I participate. For that, I'm thankful. Third thing I want to talk about is home. As I previously mentioned, I've lived in a lot of places. I've lived on both coasts in 4 states in only 16 years. So I've had a lot of both physical and mental homes. What home is different to everyone, but for me, what home is a place you feel comfortable, where you can be your truest self. Home can be my house where I sleep at night. Home can be Consumas River College football field where I get to play every Friday. Or it could be here, a temple where you just get to be your own Jewish self and preach your religion however you want to. How that's impacted my Jewish life is that I've tried to incorporate Judaism, which is a part of me, in every place I've gone. Make sure I'm open about it and it's not something I have to hide. That's why I appreciate coming here to confirmation class, because everyone here feels comfortable being as Jewish as they are and being able to express it. Seeing that, I'm very thankful for it, and I'm going to be thankful for it for a long time, as I don't think I'm going to waver on how Jewish I am, but may continue my studies. The last thing I want to talk about is football. I think it's very obvious. I play football. I love the sport, and it's the thing I want to do in the future, whether it's playing or being involved with it. But the football field, and specifically me and my team, I think is a good metaphor for both in here and for real life. Football is a violent game, which I think everyone in here who's either played, watched, or even knows what the sport is knows. You're a person in a helmet, shoulder pads, with a colored jersey on you and a number. When I go on the field, I'm not Joshua Schwartz, son of Brian and Alana, brother of Talia. I'm number 50, the center, who's trying to block anyone on the field and protect my QB. Everyone else goes through the same thing. It's not who they are, it's a number on a jersey doing a job. What that means is that out there, there's no room for judgment of things you don't get to choose. You don't see color, you see someone else on a team that's doing their job. You both gain a mutual respect for the opponent across from you when you've never met them and never talked to them in your life, and it might be your last meeting with them ever in the rest of it. And with your own team, I disagree with what Sam said. I think a sports team is the greatest community out there. It's a brotherhood or a sisterhood that goes with you for the rest of life and something you appreciate for the rest of life. They usually become your lifelong friends, and you spend every single day doing workouts, doing terrible, hard things on your body to do what you love. That's what I do every day, and I love it. But coming out of that, you see a lot of people, like I previously mentioned, in different cultures celebrate things a lot differently than you. On my team, there's people that celebrate over 8 religions. I've got to see how they celebrate their religions in a lot of different ways. But the one commonality above us, or about all of us, is we're all people who love to do the same thing. I think if everybody treated football, not in the violent aspect where you hit everyone with C, but in the aspect of everyone is just a person who's doing the thing they love, and we should just appreciate that for them, I think the world would be a lot better place. That's how Judaism has woven into every aspect of my life and how I appreciate it in every aspect of that. Thank you.
When given the opportunity to talk to a captive audience about my Judaism, I immediately faced intense option paralysis. There is so much about my confirmation and my overall Jewish experience to talk about, but true to form, I eventually landed on a subject that many Jews shy away from: God. Belief in God, or lack thereof, is a subject not frequently broached by Reformed Jews. Many of us are scared to bring up our opinions on a higher power for fear that they might not be religious enough, or, more commonly in the Reformed community, too religious. Every Friday, we come here to synagogue and we pray to God, but we give little thought to the actual concept. We are all familiar with stories in the Torah, but as Reformed Jews, we don't put a lot of stock in the notion of an old white man with a beard up in the clouds. Our brand of Judaism is much more community-oriented and less religious, but I think we can all benefit to giving some thought to God. For my whole life, I just assumed I was an atheist. I believe in science, and I believe in the Big Bang, and I believe in evolution. And in my experience in the world beyond B'nai Israel, I was always told that belief in a higher power and belief in science are mutually exclusive. Our society is so polarized that it seems as though that we can either think that we're here by a mere fluke, that life is essentially meaningless, and that we're pointless blips in the universe, or we can refuse all modern medicine because God will protect us. I think that somewhere there's a happy medium. I don't think that believing in a higher power makes you stupid or crazy, as long as you put your faith in science too. As Reformed Jews, we have the privilege to interpret God however we want. To me, God is the spark in the eye of a curious child. God is fireworks after a baseball game. God is the wind making the leaves dance. And God is singing Hashkivenu with your friends. God is all of the beauty in this world. The Torah says that we are all made in the image to God. And while many people interpret this as God as some sort of humanoid, I believe that this refers to the fact that God works through each one of us through our actions of avodah and tikkun olam. God is brought into reality through the goodness that each one of us puts out into the world. Though this is my interpretation of God, it might not be yours, but I urge you to think about your beliefs and question them. I'd like to leave you with one of my favorite bits of the Torah. When God decides to change Jacob's name to Israel. Israel means one who has wrestled with God and with humans and has prevailed. As Jews, we are taught to have faith in God, but never to blindly follow them. I urge you to be like Jacob, live up to your name as a child of Israel, B'nai Israel, and wrestle with God.
Judaism has never come easy for me. I don't know if that's because my family was never super involved here, or because I didn't have any Jewish friends outside of B'nai Israel. But I never thought that I was particularly good at being Jewish. It always felt like when I've put only one contact in the morning, a limbo of sorts between who I'm supposed to be and who I am. A fictitious puzzle piece that doesn't quite fit. But as I've grown older, I've been able to put in that other contact, fit that puzzle piece, and clear away the clandestine fog that's been shrouding me from my own version of being Jewish. I've always walked a fine line around my Jewish identity, not because I was necessarily ashamed, but because I didn't know what to do with it. I never felt, quote unquote, Jewish. To me, it was just something that made me feel different from all the other kids I knew. But as I grew up, my perception started to shift. However, my time at my Catholic high school has truly been a catalyst that has brought me a new connection with my Judaism. Now, that may sound ironic, but for me, it's true. There was an incident earlier in the year where one of my theology teachers made a remark saying that the Bible teaches us to love thy neighbor as thyself, then going on to say that means we must love all Nazis and the Taliban, no matter what. I've never been one to stay quiet on something I disagree with, just ask my brothers. And this, for me, was not a statement I could sit idly by as it was reiterated over and over again, and apparently had been for the decades this teacher had been on staff. So I did, as every other Jew in my family does in their lifetime, I got into some arguments. And by arguments, I mean arguing with the principal and vice principal of my school multiple times, to the point where they had to call in my lovely, lovely parents and waste their time by making them listen to their blundering perspective on why they couldn't take any action against this teacher, meanwhile repeating, "We care, we really do, trust us," like hammering a nail of perfectly practiced conciliation into my head. Although my efforts to enact any real consequences for that teacher were fruitless, the last thing I was going to do was give in to their incessant statements of exoneration. So I changed my course of action a little bit. I was going to hit them where it hurts, their students. Thus, St. Francis High School had its first ever school-wide example of interfaith dialogue, a Yom HaShoah assembly. However, this didn't happen overnight. I proposed different opportunities for Holocaust education training specifically created for Catholic schools, yet none of them seemed to be to their liking. Then, after many, many, many emails, I finally got approval for a Yom HaShoah assembly. Rabbi Alfie then agreed to speak at St. Francis. Now, she has watched me grow up from a little baby to the girl I am standing before you now, and also has been explicit in helping me find the version of Judaism that fits my life. So as you can imagine, I was incredibly honored. You know, I almost didn't have a bat mitzvah because I was scared. It was as simple as that. I just didn't think I could do it. But you know who told me I could? Rabbi Alfie. Watching her speak to my couple hundred fellow students and watching them ask her questions about this part of myself that had always been there, that I just didn't exactly know how to find, felt like my worlds were colliding in on each other. I had been able to open up this life that didn't necessarily need to include Judaism and let it in anyways. Maybe 8-year-old me didn't consider myself that Jewish, but I still was Jewish then, and I'm still Jewish now. It's a part of my identity that will never fade. Even when all my clothes are worn, the pages in my favorite books have faded, and my hair has grayed, I will still never be able to leave it behind. Nor do I think I want to, because I have finally begun to view it as a family, something that will welcome me with warm arms and let me connect to my ancestors. A family who, even if I'm still questioning certain aspects of it, I'll still always have a place with them. Because as my favorite Jewish camp song goes, wherever you go, there's always someone Jewish. So maybe being Jewish has never come easy to me, but it didn't have to. Our journey to finding and accepting ourselves is unique to us as individuals, and mine definitely was. There is no correct path. It's just entirely our own. Thank you.
Torah to the ark. And are you taking the
Eitz Chaim Yilem Akazikim Bavetomche Ha Meushar Eitz Chaim Yilem Akazikim Bavetomche Ha Meushar Shalom, 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 Shalom,
Let's first just take a moment to appreciate these extraordinary young men and women who shared with us their truths and their stories. You were just extraordinary. So this is my last opportunity to speak to all of you as a class. What a strange year this has been. While we were blessed to be able to study in person this year, for most of the year, we were only able to see each other's eyes. And it seems like we're back into that space yet again. It was a strange way to engage with each other. It took a lot of patience and adjustments, and yet you all persevered in your desire to learn and to create a community with each other. I am so impressed with each and every one of you for taking on the commitment to come together this year. After a year and a half of social distancing and everything in your life being turned upside down, you took on an extra commitment by coming to the temple every Tuesday night for the purpose of engaging in Torah Lishma, study for its own sake. The study we engaged in won't help you get into college, it won't get you an award, and it isn't something that you would put on your resume. But what it has done is help you to explore and better understand who you are and what type of person you want to become. It has helped you to see what type of community you want to associate yourself with and how you want to engage with the world and how you want the world to see you. We are taught in Judaism that we are part of a great chain of tradition, a sharshelet, I can never say it. Rabbi? Beautifully said. It's almost as though it's your native language. A shalshelet HaKabbalah, a chain that dates back to Sinai itself. Every Jew in every generation is entrusted with a link in the sacred chain. At times, the chain can feel as solid as iron as it anchors us with wisdom and traditions passed down from generation to generation. And at other times, this chain feels light and fragile like gold, and even as it might bring beauty and meaning to our lives, it is something that can be easily broken. When I think of this chain of tradition, this is how I think of it. Each link bears different qualities of strength and of beauty, qualities that reflect the person who crafted it. Each link is distinct, beautiful in its own way, but it is also scarred and scratched up a bit, reflecting the struggle that can come with being a Jew trying to live in the modern world. And as I look at each of you, I wonder, years from now, when future generations look back at you, how will they describe the link that your generation has forged? Will it be strong and sturdy? Will it be ornate or simple? Or will it be something that we can't even begin to imagine yet? Only time will tell us what your generation will do with the gifts that you've been given. But if your class is any indication, your link in this chain of tradition will be bright and beautiful and strong and sturdy, but most of all, it will be well worn because you have already begun to see that Judaism plays an important role in who you are. As a rabbi, I can only say what an honor it is to study with each of you. And I pray that our congregation has served as a safe haven for all of you, and that it will always be a place where you feel at home. And as I look into your faces, the parts that are above the mass, I'm filled with such pride, such hope for the future of our people. You've not inherited a world that is at peace with itself. It's a world filled with conflict and anger and urgent matters that need our attention. But I have faith, not just in God, but really in each of you, that each of you in your own way will make this world better than how you found it. Speaking from the vantage point of someone who is no longer the newest link in that chain, all I can say is that if you are the ones who will shape and inspire your generation, if you are the ones who will help forge your communal link in the chain, then the Jewish people are in exceedingly good hands. I pray that you always remember that the great blessing of the Jewish people is knowing that life is better when we link our arms together, both in joyous times and in difficult ones. A single link alone may not feel significant, but when you attach it to the one that comes before you and the one that comes after it, it can be strong enough to anchor a ship, or as special as something that adorns our necks with a symbol that reminds us that we do not walk through this world by ourselves. To be Jewish is to walk arm in arm with each other and all the generations that came before us, and to hold out our hands to lift up the ones who will follow us. And as you go into the world, may you always know that no matter how far you wander, may you always know that the doors to this sanctuary will always be open to you. And the community that you have created will be here for you with open arms, always ready to link our arms in yours. And if you choose to become a Jewish professional, you'll finally get that space laser that you have been coveting for so long. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. May you go from strength to strength, and may we strengthen one another.
We have come from near and far to raise our voice in song. And the more we join in the refrain, the more we feel strong. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. There is a power in this place and time. It shapes the rest of our lives. For when we return each year, we find a truth we can't deny. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Be strong and let us celebrate our lives. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. ourselves to those who came before. And we're one with all those yet to come. Our strength it will endure. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Be strong and let us celebrate our lives. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek.
It is my pleasure to invite up the president of our congregation, who prefers to be referred to, I think, tonight as a father of one of our confirmation students, to join me in presentations from the congregation to our students.
Well, I don't have as many wise words as the rabbi. I just want to say Mazel Tov. I'm proud of all of you for your perseverance, for your adaptability, and for finding your way and your community. And on behalf of the congregation, we'd like to present you with your, I think, confirmation certificate and a Tanakh.
Oh, we'll do these. And also a Union Graham from Libby, but we'll give those to them later.
Okay.
Yeah, here, each one by name. Start in here. And those two.
So I'll start with Allison, Bunny, Heather. Jet Steele. Benjamin Rubin. Zachary Stern. These aren't in alphabetical order, so we'll keep you guessing. Hodea Cohen-Kedem. Clara Milch Goldberg. Ellery Kay. Aaliyah Passavoy. Let's see if I get this one right. Zephin Mastronardi.
Practicing. Do you want to give it to me?
Sure. Samantha Meredith. Miranda Churchill. Tatum Blackman. E. Robinson. Joshua Schwartz. And Harper Barankin. Mazel tov to you all.
Thank you, Josh. It's my pleasure now to invite up Tatum Blackman and Joshua Schwartz to make presentations from the class.
I just want to say how grateful I am for the opportunity to present this gift from our confirmation class.
And I can't remember what it is this year.
I don't know.
That was it.
Planning.
So the confirmation class, their gift this year will be the very much needed trees along the retaining wall by the freeway, because one of the things we learned this year by having to be outside for all of our classes is that the freeway is really loud. And so the confirmation class is planting not for their own benefit, but for the future generations, which, can you imagine more than one generation in a family being able to be here and to be able to celebrate Dor Lador from generation to generation? Is that imaginable to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what a gift that you guys are giving to future generations. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'll talk.
You're going to also invite some, so you could say, you're going to invite someone up that you're going to make a presentation to?
Oh, yeah. Do I say that?
Yeah.
I'd like to invite someone up that we're going to make a presentation to. Can I have,
You know who it is.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, can I have Alana Schwartz up to the beam up, please? Yes, you. Yes. Come up. Come up. Come up. Yes. Can we just talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, let
Yes.
them know why.
Hi. On behalf of all the work that you've done for over the year, for just helping us, and I've seen it, it's an absurd amount of work. I told you to stop at a lot of points, but you didn't. But on behalf of the congregation, I'd like to present you with a gift.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Love you.
We continue with our concluding prayers, beginning with the Elena, which can be found on the bottom half of page 586. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל. Sorry. ושכינת זו בגובי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Our thoughts now turn to loved ones who are no longer with us, and we remember those who have passed on before us, some who may have died in recent days, others at this time in years past, as well as others who simply informed who we are, giving us love, affection, and inspiration. And so I'd like to invite any who would like to call aloud the name of a loved one that they would like to say Kaddish for tonight, to please feel free to call that name aloud as my gaze meets yours.
Sylvia Behrman.
We rise in memory of our loved ones as we continue together with the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam omei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudsha barichu, le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'marmav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. Amen. We remain standing as the cantor and I have the honor of blessing our confirmation students. We invite them to come and join us at the Ark. Following the recessional, as the students will lead us out, everyone is invited to please join us for the wonderful oneg that awaits us in the courtyard. What? The Birkat Kohanim, the priestly benediction from the book of Numbers, is my favorite blessing. It's the blessing that the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, would bless all of the people of Israel with at the high holidays. I love this blessing because when we bless, whether it's one person, two people, or the entire nation, the entire people of Israel, we say the blessing in the singular. We refer to all of you as a community, a singular group of people, because Judaism teaches us that that is where we get our strength from, when we stand together, united in our hearts and in our minds.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
Ken yehi ratzon. May the Holy One bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha.
Ken yehi ratzon. May the Holy One always turn towards you with kindness and with compassion.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. V'yasem lecha shalom.
Ken yehi ratzon. May the Holy One bless each and every one of you with a long and healthy life. May you continue to desire to learn and to study, to grow from what you have acquired in wisdom. But most of all, I pray that you take what you have learned out into the world, to never be afraid to live your Judaism out loud with a sense of pride and a sense of comfort in all that you have learned. But most of all, I pray that Judaism brings to you a sense of shalom, a sense of peace. And let us all say, Amen. Close the ark.
You guys are getting good at that. Wherever someone Jewish, you're never alone when you say you're a Jew. So when you're not home and you're somewhere kind of newish, the odds are don't look far, 'cause they're Jewish too. Some Jews live in tents and some live in pagodas, and some Jews pay rent 'cause the city's not free. Some Jews live on farms in the hills of Minnesota, and some Jews wear no shoes and sleep by the sea. Amsterdam, Disneyland, Tel Aviv. Oh, they're miles apart. But when we light the candles on Sabbath Eve, we share in a prayer in each one of our hearts. Wherever you go, there's always someone Jewish. You're never alone when you say you're a Jew. So when you're not home and you're somewhere kind of newish, the odds are don't look far, 'cause they're Jewish too. The odds are don't look far, 'cause they're Jewish too.
Chag Sameach. Please join us in the courtyard.